Tuesday. I hope that you are having an awesome day. It is 9:30 here in the morning in Alaska, and the sun, it's finally light here. So most of you know that it's kind of a little dark right now, but we're heading close to December 22nd when we flip and go the other way. So I'm not going to lie. I'm super excited for that day. I'm stoked to introduce you to Dr. Brian Capra. He is co-owner of Genesis Software. Brian and I got to meet, several months ago, and have known each other for a long time, but never had that face-to-face. So Dr. Brian, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I'm on the opposite, as far away from Alaska and Southeast Florida as I can get with lots of sunshine. So,
yeah, there you go. You guys are having a heat wave and everyone else is frozen, right?
Yeah, it remained hot. You kind of forget. You don't really realize it because it's so hot, and then it didn't get cooler. So I didn't really even realize that we were having a heat wave for a while until somebody told me about it. But yeah, it should be much cooler. It's just cooling down this week, so it's much nicer. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm happy to connect with you and your tribe.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's so important to, I'm thankful for the technology that we have nowadays, and Facebook and other kinds of social platforms, that we all get to know each other before we see each other face to face. But I'll confess, that face to face thing is really quite amazing. We just did our Roberto Monaco and I do a private training for women twice a year. We just did our last one last weekend. And that face-to-face for 2.5 intense days, there's nothing quite like it. So
Roberto's one of my best friends in the world, and he introduced us actually. So
it was really fun. He's a special individual. So Brian, here's what I'd like you to do. Share with the audience your journey. So you were a practicing chiropractor, and then you started Genesis. So walk us through that gap and how you've created something that is making it so much easier for practicing chiropractors.
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you so much. It's been 15 years, believe it or not. We started Genesis, so it's been a long time. But I was in practice. I was in Princeton, New Jersey at the time, actually, and I got introduced just kind of by chance to two gentlemen. I was actually in a practice that was inside of a Gold's gym, and it was just a phenomenal experience to have the gym there. Obviously, a captive audience, right? But also to be able to have a great synergy with the gym, where I would bring patients that would become members, and members would become patients. It was just awesome. So I had the idea to go and kind of franchise that model, if you would, in other types of gyms. And I was looking to raise money for that. And I got introduced, my bookkeeper introduced me to these two gentlemen. And one was a PhD in artificial intelligence, a Bell Lab scientist, and the former CIO at Lehman Brothers. And his son was a computer science graduate from Princeton University. And so super smart people.
No clue about it.
Yeah, they were just, you instantly realize that you don't know much when you're talking to them. So what happened was I was having a problem. So I went to the meeting to raise money. They had a different agenda. They had been building technology using artificial intelligence, obviously as a PhD in AI, patents, the whole nine. Artificial intelligence, big data analysis, and automated workflow. That's what they were using. I didn't know what that meant at the time. So, but they used it to build a billing technology, billing methodology, really, not just software, but a methodology. So what that meant, they said they wanted to try it on me, basically. And I said, it can't be worse than the billing company I have. I have no idea what's going on. So maybe they're doing great, maybe they're not, So we implemented it. My collections went up by 40% that next month. And then it stayed, it went up and just stayed the whole time. And I was like, all right, guys, it didn't change what I build. It didn't, didn't upcode like crazy stuff. There was no magic to it. I said, but what's going on here? I made sure I build properly, but it didn't change my coding, right? It didn't change my fees or anything like that. So I said, what's going on here? How's this working? And they said, well, there's two things. There's artificial intelligence and there's automation. So first of all, obviously, it was in the cloud. And this, again, was 15 years ago. So we hear a lot about the cloud now and cloud-based computing and artificial intelligence, all about that now. This was 15 years ago. So I said, okay, how does artificial intelligence, what does that mean? So they said, well, first of all, it's in the cloud and your claims go out in real time and the EOBs are automatically being posted. I said, well, that's pretty amazing. And they said, since that's now possible, we can use artificial intelligence, train artificial intelligence in a system to find all the claims that for any little tiny reason need more attention, that if you follow up, you might get more money. So I was like, all right, wow, that's pretty cool. And then they said, okay, but that's not just that it can find it. You see that number right there? I said, yeah. They said, that's the number of claims that have to be followed up on before the end of today. So I said, okay. He said, now click on it. It's like, click on it, and it shows me all the claims. And I go, great. And it shows the claims and why they need to be followed up on. The AI is telling you why to follow up.
Okay.
And then it goes, click on a claim. You click on a claim and you see everything that's ever happened on that claim, including conversations that were being had with the insurance companies and all this stuff. Right. So I was like, wow, that's remarkable. I mean, imagine 15 years ago looking at this. So, and I had 24/7 access to any of that, anytime, anywhere. So the concept of billing the billing service was totally changed at that point, because I was actually submitting the claim. The billing, really, the service of it got narrowed down to the follow-up. Everything else was automated. So making sure that you follow up on every single claim as second it's due, right? Keeping insurance companies accountable and paying you every penny. So I said that was the big shift in how they were using technology. Now, as a chiropractor, I said, that's great. I'm not in the, I couldn't care less about insurance billing, basically. I do it as a service to my patients, but that's not my purpose in life, right? But I knew that there was a lot of doctors that could use that. So I said to them, look, this is awesome, but if this were tied into my documentation, my scheduling, my inventory management, my everything else, then I think this could be an amazing opportunity to bring something totally unique and different to the profession. And so we actually became partners. And I became the messaging and the marketing and the sales and the somewhat of the design, like conceptually. I'm not a programmer, but these are the things we need and how it has to be super fast for a chiropractor that sees really high volume. And then there's insurance and there's Medicare and there's cash patients, and that has to be handled differently. And there's care plans and all this other stuff. So that is where I came in from, the concept, but they were the developers of this technology. So now we use that same kind of concept, that artificial intelligence concept. I'm sorry, I keep looking at you instead of the camera. You talk. So I want to look at you. So now we use that same concept. So that's the vision I saw 15 years ago, was there's bigger problems that I have in my practice than insurance claims. That's important. That's cash flow. That's really important. But my biggest problem is patient retention, patient experience. Because I said there's a million things that I have to do on every single patient, whether they just checked in for a new patient exam, or they have a re-exam coming up, or they have a re-sign coming up, or they've missed a visit, or their credit card that's on file has expired, or all these different things, or my inventory is low, which is kind of relates to patient experience, right? You go to give them a product that they need and you don't have any more of it. All these things, just like billing, there's aging reports, right? You have to go find claims. That's antiquated now with artificial intelligence. I don't want my team to have to go find all the no-shows and expired care plans and inventory and all this stuff. I want the system to bring all that work to my team. This way, I can, rather than have to go to look at all the reports to see if they did everything possible for my patients, I can know with one number, just like the number of claims, right? So that was the initiative 15 years ago. That's where we've been with Genesis for a bunch of years now, where it's really, we're the only system that really uses data analysis and artificial intelligence and workflow automation to make the business of managing, the management of a business that saves lives more efficient, more effective, more scalable, more consistent, and ultimately giving the patients a better experience. So what happens when you automate all this stuff? Typically, the practices retention goes up, patient retention. Your compliance actually goes up because we have documentation built into the billing now. The revenue goes up, and that all happens in much less time, right? So it's part of our mission statement is to create unprecedented freedom for chiropractors.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so you don't have to go when you go home, all that memory management that we typically, because I was there, what you do is like, oh, did they do this? Did they do that? Whatever happened to that patient? And then you have to go look, and you never really can check out when you leave, right, the office. It frees your mind up. First of all, and you feel good, and your team feels good that they did everything they could possibly do that day to give a great experience to everybody. And then you can just go home, check out, and have freedom to do whatever and more money, right? More time, more money to maybe you want to open other practices, or maybe you're doing well and you just want to have good quality family time and connections, maybe more vacations or all those things. So I don't know if that was a little long-winded, but yes. So that's
awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, one of the things that I see, like I love automations because it does give us freedom.
Yes.
But something I've been noticing is that then docs are relying on automation instead of connection.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like I can turn off my head because I know Brian's going to get this email, and then he's going to get this text, and he's going to get this. And so then I've also seen, like a strength overuse become a weakness, right? So how does Genesis solve that challenge of still making sure that things don't fall through the cracks and that the team stays engaged with the practice member? Because obviously retention is education plus relationship. It's not just education. Right. It's also the relationship that we build in non-technologically
automated.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that stuff's important, but nothing beats that interaction.
Yeah, I mean, there's no level of automation that can give the patient experience that the human interaction can. I agree 1,000,000% with that. So I guess the way I would talk about it or try to explain an analogy maybe is like with RAM with your computer. It's basically if you have a whole bunch of tabs open in your browser, and then you go to open something else and just a little slower and the more you open, the more programs you open, the slower everything becomes, right? Think of that as your front desk's brain, or you're the doctor, your brain, right? So imagine if you're the front desk and you've been delegated a whole bunch of responsibilities, from no-shows to care plans to all this stuff, and you have to memory manage what reports you have to go to find the work that you have to do every single day, rather than the work comes to you in a centralized place that you can go to when you're free. Now imagine you're a front desk person and patients are coming in and you're trying to memory manage this other stuff that you have to get back to and where you left off kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now your patient's in front of you and you're not really present.
Yeah.
What this does is it literally just frees your mind, and so that when I'm talking to the patient, I'm not thinking of the 10,000, just like I'm not thinking about the 10,000 things when I go home. I'm not thinking about the 10,000 things while I'm focused and present with a patient. The email marketing and the text reminders and all that stuff is helpful to supplement the human interaction, right? It automates some of that connection, but there's never going to be like you said, a replacement for the human interaction and education and connection. It will also help you remind you of things when a patient checks in for a re-exam, or they have a re-exam coming up. Oh, the prompt comes up. Barbara has a re-exam coming up in 2 visits, in 3 visits, or 1 visit, whatever it is. Hey, Barb, don't forget, we have this re-exam coming up Friday at whatever time. That means here's what we're going to do. It's going to take this long. Make sure is that time still work for you? Whatever your business process is for your practice, it'll prompt you to do certain things, but it also won't make you use up all that RAM trying to remember all the other things you have to do for the 10,000. Phone calls are happening. All this, it's busy in an office, as you know. So you got to have the ability. What it does for you is just frees your team and you and everybody up, so that at the end of the day, you know exactly what you have to do. Or at any time you have a moment, you go back to it, not having to think about it. It'll tell you what you have to do.
I love that whole, actually a talk that I worked on this weekend at the training Roberto and I did was just being unconsciously, what do I call it? Unconsciously aware, like not being, like the whole present time consciousness
Yeah.
really does, if we are not practicing that, it detracts from the human interaction. And I think a lot of small things can be missed. And those small things are what makes a good practice an extraordinary practice. So
Absolutely.
I love that your technology and Brian, is all of that customized? Like, so let's say I bought Genesis for my practice today.
Yeah.
What is the process I go through? Because I think that's oftentimes one of the biggest reasons that docs don't change is the whole like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like I'm gonna have to switch over and we're gonna be kind of down for the count. Can you talk about like how Genesis is like concierge, right? It's gonna give you everything that you need and then some. And you can also customize it, because a lot of times when things are customized, it takes us so much longer to put things in. So we walk someone through, like, number one, what is the process if they did want to switch, and kind of like
Sure.
lower the fear for that. And then what is standard, and how do you walk them through the customization?
Okay. So just the general process first, and then I'll talk about how the artificial intelligence, we call that whole concept single point management, one number. I just have to look at one number that has to be 0 before the end of the day. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so it just really is a game. It's a shift. That by itself takes a minute for people to start believing, right, and getting that's how this is a total. It flips everything upside down with technology, right? You're used to going to your reports, right? And there's still reports. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the thing. Those are after the fact. This is real time. So anyway, after a client signs up with Genesis, probably one of the biggest questions we get all the time is, can you get my patient data out of my current system? And that's a yes. There's things you can't get out, like the notes from another system. We can't pull the notes out, but you can upload your notes from the other system to our system. Once you sign up with Genesis, you get a link right away to schedule your getting started call. And on that call, we basically find out who's in the practice, who's going to work in the practice, what their roles are, responsibilities, and all that. We create their user logins, and then we map out the training process based on when they want to go live with Genesis. And then we take each person and we show them how each person is going to get trained, so it's similar in that you actually train in the system that we're just talking about. What do you have to do before the end of the day? And then you go to your screen and it gives you your first task, your first training with the video built into it. And you watch the video. So it would be, for example, okay, Barbara, you're brand new to Genesis. Create your first patient with your own name. And here's how to do it. And you create the first patient, and then you say, okay, I'm finished with this task. And you actually, when you respond, it goes to my onboarding team, and they check that you did that properly. So there's this, and then they give you the next task, and that's for every team member, right? So we track the training for every team member, and we show you, as if you're the practice owner, what training you have to do, but also how you can track the training of everybody else in your practice. Make sure we're all on track. We meet every single week. Of course, if there's questions in between those meetings, we can do that. So that's the general process until the go live date. That's the integration team. Okay. Then when you go live, where most systems leave you kind of hanging, now this is where the rubber really meets the road. And now it's like, oh my God, overwhelmed, patients are coming in. And now I have real questions. All right, so then we have a transition team that's with you every step of the way on that side of things. Yeah, to make sure you keep it and retain it and actually get the most out of what we trained on to begin with. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, if you do insurance billing, there's what's called a billing setup call, because there's a lot of automation, as you can imagine. We just want to make sure we're doing everything right for all different types of payers, and in-network and out-of-network and all that. So separately, that's that. Your fee schedules, maybe use like a CHUSA for cash patients. We have a separate process for that a little bit. So it's extensive in that we're really on top of you, and we really make sure that nobody's getting through. We actually, at sometimes the clients that just don't do their training, we have to let them go, because we know that what that turns into. It's like patients, that, right. Well, I'm not getting results, but I'm also not coming for my visits.
Oh, that's a shocker.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just ends badly anyway. So we might as well part as friends. So that's the general training process. But I think what you're also asking is, how do I customize this stuff, or do I have to customize all this stuff for all this automation? So things that are similar to every practice, like no-shows or patients without future appointments or expired care plans or patients whose credit cards that are on file that are expired or inventory, that's kind of standard, right? That happens for everybody. But you might have a different process for your re-sign than a different doctor does, right? So we train you as part of that onboarding process how to set up the automation. Maybe 2 visits before your re-sign, you want to stop the patient when they check in and open several tasks to your team. If it's a re-sign and you do insurance or cash, somebody on the team gets a task to create the financial. The doctor might get a task to create the recommendations for care. The doctor might get after a new patient, might get a task to call the patient after their new patient exam. But that might be specific to your office, right? So we teach you how to set up those kind of custom, what we call checklists.
Okay.
Kind of like a checklist on a piece of paper, but they're not accountable. Nobody's accountable to a piece of paper. All the tasks are accountable, full audit trail on every single one of them, so we know that everything was done properly. Hopefully that answers your question.
Nice. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and something I hear regularly is just, oh, nice cut.
I got that in Italy.
I have. That's awesome. I didn't get mine in Italy. I did get it at the Porsche dealer when I bought my Porsche.
Get one too.
They make them that they could go in the dishwasher, but they definitely cannot. At least wise the travel mugs. So I think one of the other really big things, and you and I kind of talked about this before, is, my team and I are struggling with our EHR, and we can't ever get someone to call us back, or they call us back and it's like, hey, insert your credit card. And it's like, are you serious? I'm already paying all this money for this EHR system. So can you help just talk about your customer service and how your customers are able to continue to get access so they're not stuck?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several companies out there that overpromise and then underdeliver, right? Or they were able to deliver for a little while and now they can't because they were flawed to begin with. Their principles of what they were operating under were just wrong. So promising that, and this is fine, but promising that anytime you pick up the phone, somebody will always be there to answer it, is just not reasonable, right? I mean, Imagine your practice.
Either.
Yeah, it doesn't work in any business, actually. So for most business anyway. So, but it is important that that your call was heard and that you're going to get a response, right? And that's going to be in a timely manner, and that you could somehow track that. So first things first is our clients are kind of trained on this. But right inside of Genesis, if you have a question that's not urgent, you just want to get a question answered. It's not like the house is burning down kind of thing. But, how do I do this kind of thing? You can open a support task right inside of Genesis. And since you've opened that task, you can also track it, meaning see the person working on it or answering, or they could say, I'll research that, and you could see what they're doing on it. And ultimately, they send the response to you. And in that response, it'll tell you, here's the response, here's where you can find the answer or what have you, or here's the training video. If this doesn't answer your question, here's the link to schedule time with me for a screen share. So my support team is able to do that. Of course, you could call, and if somebody is available, we'll get you right to them. If they're not available, or even if you have to leave a voicemail, that voicemail will open a task to our support team, and it'll get assigned to you manually on our side, so that you could still see that your voicemail was heard. Because how many times do you call, get a voicemail, and wonder if they even got the voicemail, right?
Yeah.
So that's really frustrating. And then also just actually even first level is the support that's built inside of Genesis. So if you're on the schedule, or you're on your documentation screen, or you're on a different parts of the screen, right inside of that part of the system, when you click on the little question mark, it brings you all the training content for that part of the system. It's called contextual.
Oh, so that's super cool. So it's like the Genesis Google right within the task.
Yeah, but if you're on the schedule and you click the question mark, it's going to bring you all, and you can search that, but it's all the support and paperwork, documentation, and videos for the schedule. So that's actually the first level. Usually you just click to find your help if you can find it. If you can't, then you open a task. And if that doesn't work, then you get a screen share. And if that doesn't, you could always call. It's probably the least efficient thing to call, but if it's an emergency, call. You can also set our task, the task you open to critical. If it is a critical issue, that lights off the alarms on our side. So that does get raised priority on our side of the system. Everybody gets an alert. And then there's also something else that you can actually, when you get your answer back and you're finished with the task and you say, okay, I'm finished with this, we actually ask for your rating on it. And if it's like a thumbs up or thumbs down, if you give us a thumbs down, that literally I get the text, I get the email, like everybody in the company all the way up and down finds out that, hey, that task was actually rated low, and let's get back on that phone with that client and figure out why they were unhappy with that.
I love that. And you're the person who gets on the phone and does that?
No, I don't get on the phone to do it, but I get an alert, and then of course, I have my COO and CEO and all these other people, and most likely one of them will get on top of that. But that's the way we really have improved. You know, you can consistently improve customer service through feedback. Is if you're not happy, and our clients sometimes are like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. We're like, no, please, if you're not happy, just tell us, because we want to find out why you're not happy. Is it something that we do on everybody that nobody else wants to tell us about? But it's the only way we can get better is through rating.
Yeah, I love that. So our buddy Nick just said, yes, 2 of my favorite people.
There he is, Nick. What's up, bud?
We love you too, Nick.
We were at UAC. I'm surprised you're not in UAC. When are you joining UAC, Barb?
We had that conversation. Do you remember?
We did. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So I hate to cut this off. This has been awesome. If you are in the boot camp, Brian is joining us for a private call for one of our upcoming Wednesday calls. You can ask him any questions that you have. And if he doesn't know the answer, I'm confident he'll find the answer and get back with you. Brian, before we sign off, somebody who's watching this and they want to know how can Genesis help them, what should they do? Where should they go?
You can go to genesischiropracticsoftware.com and click right on the schedule button, and my team will take you through. It's not a sales pitch. They will take you through, ask a lot of questions about your practice, help understand. They'll talk to you about that single point management system, again, review that with you, and then see if they can help you in any way, see if that can help you in any way, I should say. But again, it's not a sales pitch. They really, we have trained extensively on this. We don't push. We're not a high pressure sales. We only build long-term relationships. As a SaaS software, you have to have very high level of engagement and success the whole way through. Yeah. If we're a great fit for each other, awesome. If not, we part as friends. So
I love that. And all of you know that like relationship is my language, man. So anyone that I do a Facebook Live with, it's because I have experienced great things with them. And I'm confident that they will be in integrity with you and go over and above. So I encourage you to reach out. The call is free. At leastwise find out, like, maybe it is a fit. Maybe it's going to revolutionize your own freedom and your practice and for your team. Perhaps it could even eliminate a really expensive employee. So reach out, see what Genesis can potentially do for you. And Brian, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have an awesome day. See you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.